Hi, this is Val Free of the Neighborhood Network Alliance, and this is the Hey Neighbor podcast. Today, we have the fortune of Tonya Trice of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce gracing us with her presence. So we'd like to introduce Tonya. Hey, Tonya.
Hey Val, how are you?
How are you? Let's
I'm
speak to
great.
Yes,
I'm
so
great.
let's speak to our neighbors.
Hey,
neighbors.
neighbors.
Hey, Tanya.
Hey,
This
thank
is going to
you.
be a fun interview because we work together every day. I mean, we
Absolutely.
might call one another 6 times a day. We are
right.
definitely partners in impact in South Shore.
Absolutely. I like that. Partners in impact. Yes.
Yes. And so, before you even became the Tonya Trice that everybody know you to be, I met you and I fell in love with you then, and I'm still in love with you now. And so I would like, before we get deep into it, talk about Tonya, tell Tanya's story. Does everybody know Tanya's story?
Well,
Where did you come from?
I think everyone knows by now, but before
talk about
I began,
before you
yeah.
became the Tonya Trice.
The ED, sure. Well, before I start that, talking about me, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. This is definitely an honor. Anytime anyone asks me to share my opinion and give my voice, it's an honor. And I appreciate it and I don't take it lightly. So thank you for respecting and acknowledging what I do in the community, and just know that it cannot be done without your collaboration. And I'm very glad to be here.
I feel the same.
Thank you. So, how did I get here? Well, most people think that I grew up in South Shore, and I did not. I grew up in the Auburn Gresham community and moved to South Shore for my very first apartment. I came by way of the quadrangle house, like so many of us, and fell in love with the South Shore community, being on the lakefront and just enjoying everything that the community had to offer. Unfortunately, I ended up, well, I guess not unfortunate, but I ended up moving to the suburbs, got married, had my daughter, and decided that I wanted to come back into the community, and I made a beeline straight to back to the South Shore community. I've been with the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, I think close to 10 years now. I think it'll be 9 years in May. And I took an interest in the community work because my husband, who I also met in South Shore, he would talk about all the changes the community was going through, how he wanted to continue investing in the community. And I thought that was so noble, investing in the community that you live in and that you work in, and the community that was giving back or giving so much to him. But I wanted to find a different way of getting involved. My husband's a general contractor, real estate investor, GC, but I wanted to be more community engaged. And ironically, you and I met, and we were doing some fee for services work when you had your errands, et cetera, business. And I was inspired by your passion and your commitment to the South Shore community. So honestly, that is what kind of motivated me to find something that I can do to get more engaged. And a position came available at the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, and I thought it was great because my background is in real estate and development, and my husband and I had owned commercial properties in South Shore and Chatham, and we were always engaged with small business owners, recruiting them to come and lease space in our businesses, helping them build out their spaces, helping them attract clients to their businesses. And when I heard about the position at the Chamber of Commerce, I'm like, wow, this is kind of what we have already been doing, and this is just, a more formal, operating in a more formal capacity. And I got the job, and it has been, the pleasure of my life to serve the South Shore community and do what I love, helping people and helping businesses flourish. So, that's kind of my journey. I'm married. I have 3 adult children, and we currently live in South Shore, and we're still working to, improve the community in any small way that we can.
Yeah. So talk about the chamber. What about the chamber you love so much? And what about the chamber you say, I love it and I can take this to the next level for the chamber? Because it's not just the chamber. You have the CDC under the chamber, and there's the business center under the chamber. And then we'll talk about the projects, but let's just talk about the baby, the parent of it all.
Sure. Well, I realize that for any thriving community, you have to have strong, robust businesses. And the fact that South Shore is a predominantly African American community with businesses that serve our clientele, that speak to our culture, that's important. But those businesses often also have to be cultivated. They have to be nourished just like anything else to grow. And the chamber provides that for small businesses. We provide access to capital, education, networking, public policy work, a little bit of public policy work, advocacy for small businesses. And the great thing about my job is I'm never doing the same thing. I get to be as creative as I want to be. I get to interact with people from all walks of life, including presidents. I've had the fortune of meeting President Obama maybe 3 times now in my work. But I also get to meet the everyday people on the ground that, just want to make sure that their voice is heard, or that they can spend their money in the community and get the services and amenities that they want. So, it's a challenge every day, working with the chamber and coming up with programs and initiatives to help the businesses flourish. As you mentioned, we recently formed a community development corp so we can take on more broader economic development issues in the community, and also acquire and develop some community-based assets that we feel are not serving our community as they should be. And we still have of course, the Chamber of Commerce, and the 2 entities. It's 2 separate entities, but they work hand in hand to realize the day-to-day operations and the needs of the community. And we're also a neighborhood business development center for the city of Chicago. We're a delegate agency for the city of Chicago, which means that we receive information from the city and bring it back into the South Shore community and share that information and knowledge with the business owners and the residents.
So let's talk about the Business Development Center. How does that work outside of the information you get from the city? Are there workshops? Are there things like that? Tell us about the Business Development Center.
Well, the city has charged us with creating programs to educate small business owners, share information and resources that come from the city of Chicago, because their representatives cannot be everywhere. And so we work closely with the city of Chicago to make sure that whatever information, grants, new ordinances being introduced to city council, programming, activities, we share that information with the community. We're an extension of the city of Chicago.
So does the center also provide its own programming?
Yes. The chamber does create programming for our small businesses. We have a lot of collaborations. We created a program called the Artisan Collective, which works with home-based businesses, artists and creatives to help them grow their businesses and turn what may currently be a hobby into an actual business. That is an underrepresented segment of our economy, and we want to make sure that those small business owners get the same education, training, and resources that people that have brick and mortars receives. And it's a wonderful program. We have expanded the program to collaborate with Sunshine Enterprises, and we offer a community business academy twice a year now. And then the Chamber of Commerce provides more advanced retail readiness training for that segment of our small businesses.
Mhm. Talk about the impact on South Shore the Chamber has had since you've been the Chamber, and even just changing the conversation about the Chamber.
Mhm.
Talk about that.
Well, I'll be honest. When I took over, there was a lot of work that needed to be done at the chamber. I had to rebuild relationships. I had to create new relationships, not just in the community, but with some of our external partners. And that's what I did day one. I sought out who my allies would be, who I could tap to help me create a strategy and to help me build out my vision for the organization. And I started there, just finding my allies, finding my partners, and who I felt I could form a solid collaboration with, because this work is challenging. None of us can do it alone. We need collaborating partners. I sought out support from philanthropy. And I think that has been the difference. I think that I have tried to bring more awareness to the South Shore community through, again, philanthropy, through city agencies, state level departments, working with our elected officials, making sure that we have customer engagement and community outreach initiatives like our South Shore Summer Festival and the Connect South Shore, and making sure that our SSA 42 Special Service Area, for those of you not familiar, is creating more programming and being more supportive of the businesses and not just working as a public way maintenance program. And originally, when I first started, I think that's what we focused on most: public way, litter abatement, security, landscaping, snow removal. And so now we are getting involved with more initiatives so that we can really support the corridors, engage the residents, and be there for the small businesses and help them to sustain.
So tell me about the impact, because that's the collaboration piece and changing the narrative, the image, all of the things that we have to protect when we're in this business, and that is our image, right? And so talk about like how everything that you're working on, precept upon precept, concept, how has it impacted South Shore? I know we have a long way to go because there has been decades of disinvestment. And this is not a hole that you can just jump right out of, come out of the box. It takes time.
Yes.
So how, in terms of what impact has looked like in the 10 years that you've been there, talk about what that looked like. Like when you first came, the business corridors were this, and now it's that, or we have, where we didn't do this, we now do that, that type of stuff.
Well, I'll explain it in two ways.
Okay.
First of all, the business corridors honestly probably look the same way now that they did when I came. However, we have been able to help some of those legacy businesses and even some of the new businesses that have come into the community sustain. When I say they look the same, I'm talking about from a vacancy perspective. We still have a high rate of vacancies in the South Shore community. But the reason behind that is broader than the Chamber of Commerce.
And we can get into that.
Sure. So we are dealing with some external factors that, once resolved, we will have a greater impact and be able to attract more businesses into the community. But we have made some progress. The Chamber of Commerce has been able to get over close to $3 million out in small business grants to the South Shore community in 2023. Over $750,000 in small business loans were received by the businesses in the community. We have 7 new businesses in the South Shore community. So we're making progress there. We are on track to finalizing a 71st Street corridor strategy, which will definitely help us with having a much bigger impact over the next 2 years. I think a lot of our challenges in South Shore, and you have heard me say this time and time again, is, we have an issue in the South Shore community where, we need a better working relationship with some of our commercial landlords.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that has been my biggest challenge, my biggest pain point is getting the commercial landlords to realize how significant they are to the revitalization and growth of our community. That just having a non-performing asset on their books where they may be able to afford that, the community cannot afford it. And we want to have a working relationship with those landlords and get them to the table and get them to understand how important their involvement can be in revitalizing the community. They have a responsibility to the community where these assets are located.
So how do you get that done? Because a lot of these landlords are not even in the city, or don't even know who they are, but it's definitely an issue. I know for sure it's an issue because I know what 71st looked like when I was a kid, and I know what it looks like now, and it's big difference.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue, and what we have done was we've built a coalition of about 27 organizations facilitated by the Small Business Advocacy Council. And we meet regularly. And to my surprise, Val, I have found out that some of the same challenges that we face in South Shore is also happening in communities across the city, even on the more affluent neighborhoods on the north sides of town and definitely on the west sides of Chicago, where some of these landlords are, keeping their properties vacant deliberately, to receive a lower tax assessment. And the only due diligence required on the landlord is that they put a for rent sign in the window and that the property has been vacant for more than 6 months out of the year. And from there, they can file an affidavit and get a lower tax assessment. And that is a good policy for, bona fide development projects that may require a long period of time before, doors are open. But for others that take advantage of this policy, we're trying to incentivize them to come to the table.
So what would it look like to move this forward? Because I remember when the conversations in the group first started, it's been a minute. So what's happening now with the group, and what progress have they made to move this forward? Because I know community members are waiting for change.
Absolutely. Well, we have made progress. Originally, when we started working on this, the landlords could file this affidavit yearly and receive a tax reduction, a reduction in their tax assessments. Since then, the Small Business Advocacy Council and the coalition has put together recommendations to the State General Assembly asking that these landlords not be allowed to take this tax credit each year, but that they are allowed to take the tax credit 3 years within a 10-year period. And they are responsible for diligently working to attract tenants to that property, to make improvements to that property, working with organizations like the South Shore Chamber of Commerce to find viable businesses to go into those properties. And that has been introduced, and we're still waiting to find out if it will pass out of the General Assembly, but it's progress.
That's definitely progress. But then my next question would be, what will it take to move it from general to out of General Assembly? Because, we're looking at decay. We have some of the best real estate in the city, but third world country business corridors makes no sense.
Yeah.
But so we don't have another year to wait for this.
Yeah.
And so what does this group, whoever needs to help move the needle with our elected officials, talk about it?
Absolutely. Well, we have had many legislators working with us to get this passed, but the biggest challenge has been really the real estate community. They feel that property owners have the right to use their properties to their optimal use, whatever that is. And they don't want to push back on landlords. They don't want landlords to be penalized. So it's a matter of getting them to understand the impact on the ground that tax credit initiatives have on our communities. And they may not understand that because it's not impacting them the same way it impacts us because they don't live in a South Shore community. So
would you say a documentary would help?
Well, maybe a documentary would help. I do think that it's a matter of negotiating and finding the sweet spot where, everyone can live with this, because that's what it is. It's a negotiations. We got to find a way where, the property owners are happy, the real estate world, the real estate industry is happy, but most importantly, that the community is happy as well. We don't want to penalize anyone. We don't want to fine anyone or cause them any hardship, but we just want them to understand the negative impact that their actions are having on our community.
We're speaking with Tonya Trice of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. Because economic development is so important to South Shore, we're going to do this in two parts.